האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We're in the Zera Shimshon on Parshas Vayishlach, and we're going to do Os Tes, section number 9. The Zera Shimshon is going to talk about Yaakov Avinu's two names, Yaakov and Yisrael. Before we get, he's going to look at a pasuk in Yeshaya. And so let's take a look at that pasuk first before we get into the text. So this is Yeshaya Perek Mem Daled pasuk Hey. And the pasuk says as follows: Ze Yomar Lashem Oni. This one will say, I am to Hashem. V'ze Yikra V'shem Yaakov. And this one will call out in the name of Yaakov. V'ze Yichtov Yodo Lashem. And this one will write with his hand to Hashem. Uv'shem Yisrael Yechaneh. And in the name of Israel, he will be referred. So you can see in the pasuk that the name Yaakov and the name Yisrael are used. And as we get into the Zera Shimshon, we'll see he's going to start with a comments from the Yalkut Shimoni, from the Medrash Yalkut Shimoni, on this pasuk in Yeshaya. So let's go right into it again. Parshas Vayishlach Os Tes. Medrash Yalkut, the Medrash and the Yalkut Shimoni says, Ze Yomar Lashem Oni. This one will say, I am to Hashem. La Hashem, I am totally to Hashem. This is now the comment from the Medrash. V'lo nisarev bi chet. And there is no sin mixed in with me. So the Yalkut Shimoni comments, or you might say interjects into the pasuk and says, what does it mean that one person or one group of people will say, I am to Hashem? It means that that individual or that group of people are claiming they are totally to Hashem, and there is no sin at all mixed into their lives. Now, the next phrase in the pasuk, V'zeh Yikra V'shem Yaakov, and this individual or this group will call in the name of Yaakov. Elu Gerei Tzedek. That phrase refers to the righteous converts, the Gerim, the righteous Gerim who join the Jewish people. They will call out in the name of Yaakov Avinu. Continuing with another quote from the pasuk, V'zeh Yichtov Yodo Lashem, and this one will write, his hand will write to Hashem or for Hashem. Elu Balei Tshuva. This refers to people who did teshuvah, balei tshuva, people who originally did not lead a religious lifestyle, and they came back to leading a religious life, and that's what the words refer to when it talks about writing for Hashem. Uv'shem Yisrael Yechaneh, the last few words in the pasuk, the last phrase in the pasuk that says, in the name of Yisrael, not the name of Yaakov, but in the name of Yisrael, this individual or these people will be referred to with that name. Elu Yirei Shamayim. These are people who are God-fearing people. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Yalkut Shimoni. So continuing in the next column, in the second column over. Yesh ledakdek. We need to point out, or we need to analyze, Loma hagerim nikroim b'shem Yaakov. Why are converts? Why is this Medrash Yalkut Shimoni telling us that converts, Gerei Tzedek, righteous converts, will be called in the name of Yaakov? Will either call out in the name of Yaakov or will be called by the name of Yaakov. Ve'enom nikroim b'shem Avraham. And apparently they're not going to be called in the name of Avraham. The converts are going to be called in Yaakov's name, not Avraham's name. Shenikra Av Hamon. But Avraham is called, his whole name Avraham, as the Torah teaches us, is Av Hamon. He will be a father of many nations, not just a father of one nation. And we know Avraham is usually considered the father of Gerim, of the converts. He was the quintessential convert and the person who represented Gerim is what we usually say. But here the pasuk in Yeshaya, along with the Medrash Yalkut Shimoni, is telling us that the converts will be called by the name of Yaakov. V'chein kosav harav b'shem Rambam. The Zera Shimshon is going to continue to strengthen his question by bringing a comment of Rabbeinu Avadia Mibar Tanura on the Rambam on a Mishnah in Meseches Bikurim. And we're going to see there a strong connection between converts and Avram Avinu. But Parakama de Bikurim Mishnah Dalet, if you look in the first parak of Meseches Bikurim in the fourth Mishnah, the Bartanur brings down the Rambam She'ein halacha kistam Mishnah. The Rambam says the law, the halacha, does not follow that Mishnah, the fourth Mishnah over there, and we'll talk about what the issues are in a moment. Ella shehager mevi v'kore, continuing to the top of the next page. But in contradiction to the Mishnah there, the real halacha, the Rambam says, is that a convert is allowed to bring Bikurim, is obligated to bring Bikurim and recite the special passage that all Jewish people recite when they bring their Bikurim, their first fruits. Again, we'll explain more in a moment. And why can a convert recite that special paragraph? Mipnei she'Avraham nikra of lagerim. Because Avraham is considered the father for converts. So just like born Jews, I should say, are able to trace their lineage back to Avram Avinu, so too Gerim are spiritually able to trace their lineage to Avram Avinu because he is the Av LaGerim, the father of converts. V'chein kishem mispalel, and so too the Rambam continues. And when a kishem mispalel hager, when a convert to Judaism davens, yochol lomar Elokei avosenu, he is able to say the God of our forefathers, v'chule v'ayin sham, and look over there. So what's going on in the Mishnah in Bikurim that the Zera Shimshon wants to bring to our attention is it says in the Mishnah there that when a born Jewish person, a regular Jewish person, brings his first fruits to the Beis HaMikdash, to the temple, which is a mitzvah in the Torah, mitzvah d'oraisa, to do so, he not only brings the fruit, but he recites a special recitation. And in the recitation, in those psukim, it mentions the God of our forefathers, thanking Hashem, recognizing Hashem, the God of our forefathers. So the Mishnah in Bikurim says that converts bring the first fruits, but they can't make the recitation, because how could they make a recitation that talks about the God, that Hashem is the God of their forefathers? Their forefathers were not Jews. That's what the Mishnah says. But the Bartanura brings down the Rambam, who says that the halacha does not follow that Mishnah, and rather the halacha is that even converts also, when they bring the Bikurim, when they bring the first fruits and do that mitzvah, they also make the recitation. How can they make a recitation about their forefathers? Answer, because Avram Avinu is considered their forefather. He's the spiritual patriarch of converts as well. And now the Zera Shimshon continues with his question, V'im kain, and if so, hoyelo lomar, the Medrash Yalkut should have said, V'zeh yikra b'shem Avraham. The pasuk should have said, the pasuk in Yeshaya should have said, and this one, meaning referring to the converts, will be called in the name of Avraham. But that's not what it said. It said will be called in the name of Yaakov, which is the fundamental question that the Zera Shimshon is posing. Why would the pasuk connect Gerim to Yaakov Avinu rather than to Avram Avinu when we have so many sources that point to Avram Avinu as being the spiritual forefather for Gerim, for converts? Ve'od, in another question on the Yalkut Shimoni, ma inyin yichtov yodo, why did it connect the phrase in the pasuk about his hand will write, im habale tshuva, with people who have done teshuvah, with people who return to the fold and return to observance of Torah and mitzvos? What does writing with the hand have to do with that? So the Zera Shimshon asked those two questions. Really what he wants to do and what he's about to do is explain all of the references in the Yalkut Shimoni on the pasuk in Yeshaya. So we'll begin to go through that now in the next paragraph. V'yesh lomar, and we can say, shehagerim nikroim dafka b'shem Yaakov. In that pasuk, the converts are called specifically after the name of Yaakov, not Avraham. Lefi shahakosov he's hiranu kama pe'omim, because the Torah warns us several times al onoas hager, on mistreating a convert. The Torah, in several different places, discusses the prohibition against mistreating gerim, against mistreating converts. V'nosan lanu hatam, and the Torah gives us the reason. And here comes a quote from the pasuk: "V'ger lo soneh," and a convert you shall not mistreat. V'lo silchotzenu, and you shall not put different kinds of pressure on him. You should not squeeze him literally. In other words, you should not put him in uncomfortable, awkward positions in any way. Ki gerim heyisim be'eretz Mitzrayim. Because you, the Jewish people, you were gerim, you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. And the simple understanding of that pasuk is, no one should be able to be sensitive to gerim more than the Jewish people, who were gerim themselves and suffered at the hands of the Egyptians in Mitzrayim. And so we should have learned so many things from that experience, but one of those things was how to be kind and considerate and accepting of strangers in our midst, meaning when non-Jews convert to become Jewish. V'hagolus shel Mitzrayim hischil miYaakov, and the exile in Egypt began with Yaakov. Kedichsiv, as the pasuk writes, and this pasuk is referring to the incident towards the end of Sefer Bereshis, where Yaakov Avinu presents his family to Paro, and the brothers say, "V'lagor ba'aretz banu," we have come to sojourn in the land. Shehayahu rishon leirei leMitzrayim. That is telling us that Yaakov was the first of the avos to come down to live in Egypt. Of course, Abraham went down to Mitzrayim first. He was the first of the avos. But the Torah makes it clear that Abraham only even thought of going to Mitzrayim because of a severe famine that made it impossible to stay and to remain in Eretz Canaan. So Abraham went down to Mitzrayim, and relatively quickly he left Mitzrayim at Paro's behest to head back to Eretz Canaan. But Yaakov Avinu came with his family to live in Mitzrayim, and so Yaakov is the figure of among the avos who represents the Golus Mitzrayim, the beginning of the Egyptian exile. V'chevon shemachmas Golus zeh, and since it is because of this exile, this experience of exile in Mitzrayim, nimshachol lahem tova, that a good thing was extended to converts, she'ein anu yicholim lehonosam, we are prohibited from mistreating them. Umizeh mucha ha'ava she'oiv HaKadosh Baruch Hu es hagerim, and this prohibition by Hashem, this oft-mentioned prohibition against mistreating gerim, proves the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for converts, for those who leave and forsake their own born religion and embrace the Jewish people in Torah and mitzvos. Hashem loves them, and and the fact that the Jewish people embrace them and accept them to the extent that they do, and never want to violate the prohibition of mistreating gerim, that all comes from Yaakov Avinu, who led the movement of the Jewish people at his time down to Mitzrayim, and is considered the first of the avos to begin the Golus Mitzrayim. So there's a connection between Yaakov Avinu and the Golus, and between the Golus and the way that we are expected to treat gerim. Mishum hachi mishabchim lashem b'shem Yaakov. Because of that, the pasuk in Yeshaya is telling us that the Gerei Tzedek, the righteous converts, will praise Hashem in the name of Yaakov, v'lo b'shem Avraham, and not in the name of Avraham. So even though what we're seeing is that even though Gerim have a special connection, a very special connection to Avram Avinu. They have a different kind of connection for a different reason to Yaakov Avinu, and that's what is coming to the fore. And that's what I should say is brought to the fore and emphasized in the pasuk in Yeshaya that the Yalkut Shimoni was commenting on. And even though Gerim are entitled to use phrases that talk about the God of their forefathers, Mipnei Shehem B'nei Avram, because we consider them spiritually the children of Avram Avinu. Mikol Mokom, nevertheless, lo nimshach lehem shum tova. They didn't exactly receive any practical benefits from the connection to Avram Avinu. They received a spiritual benefit, and which of course is important, but it's different than the benefit they received from Yaakov. Shahare lo notlu chelik be'eretz kivnei Avraham. Their connection to Avraham did not translate into, for the converts, into receiving a chelek, a portion in the land, in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel. It wasn't that type of connection and that type of benefit, but their connection to Yaakov Avinu is through the Golus Mitzrayim. The Jewish people for all time are obligated to treat Gerim respectfully and properly, and not and are prohibited from mistreating them. So that's why the Zera Shimshon tells that. That's why there's this connection between Gerim, Gerei Tzedek, and Yaakov Avinu in the pasuk. Continuing, V'zeh yichtov, and when the pasuk says this one, this individual, or this group of people will write. Will write with his hand the name of Hashem. Elu Baalei Tshuva, and the Medrash said this refers to people who did Tshuva. Kosu Amikubalim, the Kabbalists wrote, Shebizman Shehaya Beis Hamikdash Kaya. At the time that the Beis Hamikdash existed, it stood. Lo Haya Olam Ha'asiya Tzorich Tikun. The world of Asiya, the world where actions have to be done in order for things to be accomplished. That, of course, is Olam Hazeh. That's the physical world we live in. The world did not need to be rectified and repaired spiritually as long as the Beis Hamikdash was standing. Aval ata, but now, achar hachorban, now after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, tzorich tikun, the world needs to be repaired spiritually. V'hatikun hu keshetalmid vosik, and that repair comes about when a experienced and a veteran Talmud Chacham, Baal Tshuva, or a new learner, a person who has returned to Judaism, Kosef Shum Davar, writes something miyasodei Torah, which involves foundations and principles of Torah. Oz be'oso kesiva, with that writing of a Devar Torah, of a Chiddush in Torah, either by a knowledgeable Talmud Chacham from the Jewish people, or a Baal Tshuva from the Jewish people, or Misakein Olam Ha'asiya, that brings a spiritual repair to this world, the world of doing. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Sefer of Kabbalah that the Zera Shimshon was quoting. V'chein kosav, next paragraph, hamavar yobok, and so writes the Mavar Yobok, Perek Chof Tes, in the 29th Perek, Mamar Gimel, in the third discourse, shekol chidushei haTorah shemechadshim Yisrael v'golos hazeh, all novel ideas, all new ideas of Torah that the Jewish people are mechadesh, that they come up with on their own, that they develop on their own during the time of Golus. Asidim heim leomro, in the future they will recite those chidushei Torah, ba'olam haba, in the next world. Shekein hakorbanos, we're top of the second column now. Shekein hakorbanos hayu osim aflamala, the sacrifices that were brought down in the Beis Hamikdash were done above in the supernal realms in Shemayim as well. Kemosha anu omrim, as we say, v'ishe Yisrael usfilasam, and the fire offerings of the Jewish people and their tfilos just as the tfilos ascend to Shamayim, so to the korbanos that Bnei Yisrael does, that the Bnei Yisrael offers, ascend to Shamayim. Im kain, if so, tikun hakorbanos v'sikun hachidushim echad hu. If so, the spiritual repair that was brought by korbanos during the time of the Beis Hamikdash can be compared. It's of one nature with the spiritual repair that is done by Chidushay Torah, by the writing and formulation of novel ideas in Torah. Echad hu. That's the same concept. That's the same idea. Umishum hochi ka'amar, and because of this idea, it said in the pasuk, "V'zeh yichtov yodo l'Hashem." This one will write with his hand for Hashem. Sheksivas achidushay Torah, because the writing of novel ideas of the divrei Torah she'osa habal tshuva, which a bal tshuva does, who osa tikun gomor l'nishmasa, it makes a complete repair for his neshama. Shahare chidushay Torah, because new ideas in Torah, heim shamayim chadoshim kanoda, they are like creating new heavens, as is well known. V'hashamayim nivru biyodo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shamayim was created, of course, with the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. K'dichsiv, as another pasuk in Yeshaya says, Ani yadai notu shamayim. I, with my hand, stretched out the heavens. The Od Ksiv, in another pasuk from Tehillim, Umase Yodov Magid Harakia, and the heavens tell us of the handiwork of Hashem. V'habal tshuva shepogam b'shamayim ha'elyonim, and the Bal Tshuva, whose original sinful acts before he or she did tshuva caused damage in the upper heavens, who misakein b'chsivas achidushim, he can bring repair to that damage with the writing of new ideas in Torah, shebore shamayim chadoshim, which is a way of creating new aspects of shamayim. So the Zera Shimshon tells us and demonstrates to us that when the pasuk said "Zeh yichtov yodo l'Hashem," this one or this group will write with his hand for Hashem, that's a special reference for Balei Tshuva, who by writing Divrei Torah and Chidushay Torah are able not only to bring tikkun, spiritual repair to their own neshamas, but to bring spiritual repair to the Shamayim, which was damaged, so to speak, by their original sinful activities. Continuing. Uvishem Yisrael Yechaneh. And the last phrase in the pasuk said, and in the name of Yisrael, he will be referred to. So we have an individual or a group that will be referred to by the second name of Yaakov Avinu, the name Yisrael. And the Medrash commented, Elu Yirei Shamayim, these are God-fearing people. She'kosav HaKliyokar, we need to look at what the Kliyokar, the commentator, the very famous commentary on Chumash, the Kliyokar wrote, Sheshem Yaakov Hu Gufani. The name Yaakov, which was Yaakov Avinu's birth name, his original name, refers is a name that refers to Yaakov's physical aspect. The Yisrael Ruchani, and the name Yisrael, Yaakov's a second given name, that refers to his spiritual aspect. Umishum hachi nishtairu lo shnei shemos, and this is the reason he had to be given two names. Lefi she'i efshar la'adam below guf v'nefesh. It's impossible for a person to live in this world and to accomplish things in this world without both a body and a guf. We need a partnership of the two. V'hayirei shamayim, people who are God-fearing, einam holchim achar tabas haguf. Sincerely God-fearing people do not follow after the desires of their bodies. Elatomid yireim lenafsham. They're always concerned about their souls and their spirituality and their observance of Torah and mitzvos. Shelo dai she'enum chotim. Not only is it true that they don't sin, ela sheyoshvim tomid befachad uvideaga, but they're always worried and concerned shelo yovo eze chet liyodam, that no sin should come to their hands, even unintentionally or without their notice. Umishum hachi, and because of this, uv'shem Yisrael yechaneh, That's why when the pasuk in Yeshaya says that an individual or group of people will be referred to by the name Yisrael, it's referring to the truly God-fearing people, because Yisrael is the spiritual name of Yaakov that refers to his spiritual aspect. And the truly God-fearing people are also totally concerned with ruchnius, with spirituality in this world. V'dayik shapir shelo amar yikra'u. And the pasuk in Yeshaya was careful not to say, in the name of Yisrael, they will be called, or they will call. Ela shehem mechunim u'mishulim l'shem Yisrael. They are not just calling that name, they're not just using the name Yisrael, rather, they are being referred to and being compared to the name Yisrael. As truly God-fearing people, as true Yirei Shamayim, they can be referred to by Yaakov's spiritual name, Yisrael. At this point, the Zera Shimshon has, we can pause for a moment, because the Zera Shimshon has, number one, answered his original questions about the phrases in the pasuk and how the Yalkut Shimoni explained them. And now he's going to move ahead with a different set of explanations. So please bear in mind that fact. Right now, the Zera Shimshon is going to say what we said so far is it stands on its own. And now I'm going to offer alternative explanations to some of the phrases in the pasuk. So this is a new approach. This is what's going to happen now is not a further rendition or a further explanation of what we've been talking about. It's a new approach, an alternative approach to explaining and understanding the pasuk in Yeshaya along with the Yalkut Shimoni. Ve'od yesh lomar, and we can also say, shebagerim omar sheyikra'u b'shem Yaakov, the fact that the pasuk says that gerim, converts, can be called with the name Yaakov, mehatam shekosav bal asara ma'amoros. This can be connected to an explanation given in the Sefer Asara Ma'amoros. Shekol hagerim minan havu. All converts come from the Jewish people. The idea that's developed there in the Asara by the Asara Ma'amoros is that converts are not truly foreigners who come to join the Jewish people. They're Jewish neshamas who were separated, and we'll see that in a moment, from the Jewish people and are returning to the Jewish people. V'nidchu ba'avon adam harishon. The neshamas of converts were pushed away from the Jewish people. Their connection to Klal Yisrael was severed when the chait of Adam Harishon took place. Machmas haklolos sheba'u la'olam, due to the curses that came into the world, beramous hanochosh, through the deception of the primordial snake. V'niskenu elu haklolos, and those curses have been spiritually repaired, im habrocho sheba'u la'olam, through the blessings that came to the world, beramous Yaakov, through the deception of Yaakov. When Yaakov deceived Esav and deceived his own father in order to get the birthright, the Bechorah, and the brachos, the blessings, that put things back into the correct order. Ve'oz huchnu nishmos hagerim lachzor l'makomam. And then it allowed the souls of converts to return to their original place, to return to their connection to the Jewish people. V'lochein yikra'u dafka b'shem Yaakov. And that, according to this new approach, can be brought as an explanation as to why converts are called in connection to the name of Yaakov. Ki shelo notal mitoch haklipa biramaos. Because Yaakov Avinu took what rightfully belonged to him when he practiced his act of deception. He took back those things that had been taken away from the Jewish people and put into the klipa, the forces of impurity in the world. V'hachi kara shmo Yaakov, and that is why he is called Yaakov, because he was able to reverse the original fraud that was brought about into the world by the Nachash and all of the terrible things that happened because of that. Yaakov Avinu was able to reverse that, and one of the things he was able to accomplish was to bring back the ability of the Gerim, of converts, to return to the Jewish people from whence they originated, from whence they originally came. Uvederech acher, next paragraph, yesh lefarish, and also we can explain in a new way, my de Omar, what the pasuk says, uveshem Yisrael yechaneh, the last phrase of the pasuk, in the name of Yisrael, he will be referred to. Elu yirei shamayim, and the Medrash said these are God-fearing people, as we know. We're going to explain that in a new way also. The Isa b'Vayikra Rabbah, it states in the Medrash Vayikra Rabbah, al ha-pasuk, on the pasuk, the nefesh ki sakriv korban mincha, when a soul will bring an offering of a korban mincha, on that pasuk, the Medrash Rabbah says, Yirei Hashem hallelujah. It brings a pasuk from Tehillim. The God-fearing ones will praise him. Elu Yirei Shamayim. These are God-fearing people. The Hiksha Sham HaYefei Toar, and the Sefer Yefei Toar asks, Ma Hosif al Loshen HaKosuv. How did that add anything to the words in the pasuk? The words in the pasuk will said, the ones who fear Hashem will praise Hashem, and the Medrash added, these are the ones who fear, are God-fearing people. The Teretz and the Yefei Toar answers his own question, Shedato leforesh yirei Hashem. What's happening is the Medrash Rabbah is explaining the words God-fearing people, al chasidei umos ha'olam, on non-Jewish people who are righteous and God-fearing, not on Jewish God-fearing people, which is what we would have thought it was referring to. Yirei Hashem, we think, means Jews who fear Hashem, God-fearing Jewish people. But the Yefei Toar says, no, the Medrash Rabbah is coming to say what is actually being referred to is non-Jews, Chasidei Umos Ha'olam, who are God-fearing. Pirshu gabe Yirei Hashem barchu es Hashem, as is explained on the pasuk, another pasuk in Tehillim, the God-fearing ones will bless Hashem. Shehem hanochrim. This is also a reference to non-Jews. Haboyim lehispalel beis Hashem, who come to daven at the house of Hashem. Ad kan lashono. Until here is a quote from the Yefei Toar. So we see that the phrase Yirei Hashem in the pasuk in Yeshaya does not necessarily have to refer to God-fearing Jews. It can refer to God-fearing non-Jews, as it does in the psukim and Tehillim that were just brought down in this past paragraph. So that's the new explanation. And here also in our pasuk in Yeshaya, we can say that the phrase Yirei Hashem, God-fearing people, refers to a non-Jewish God-fearing people. Chasidei umos ha'olam. V'diek shopir tuvo loshen hakosuv, and the words in the pasuk were very precisely written. She'omer, because it says, Uveshem Yisrael yechaneh, the individual or group will be referred to as Yisrael. Dishma mino, we learn from that choice of words, she'eno miklal Yisrael, that they're not really Jews. If they were really Jews, then perhaps the pasuk would not have used the word yechaneh. They will be referred to by the name Yisrael because they really are Yisrael. They don't need to be referred to as Yisrael. But the fact that it says Yisrael, the Zera Shimshon says, could be a hint to us, an indication to us that it's referring to non-Jews, to Chasidei Umos Ha'olam. Ve'od asi shapir, and there's another thing that works out nicely in the pasuk with this new explanation. The naktinhu b'seder lo zo afzo. Now, with this explanation, we can say that the whole pasuk in Yeshaya that we started with in the very beginning of this piece is using a method called lo zo afzu. That means each thing in the pasuk and the list of things that are happening is a bigger chiddush, is a thing that would be less known to us or not assumed by us in a greater degree. So the pasuk is telling us one thing that's a new idea, then a thing that's even more of a new idea or more surprising, and then another thing that's even more surprising, and then finally ends with a fourth thing that's the biggest chiddush, the most surprising part, as he's going to explain right now. Mitachila, in the beginning of that pasuk, Mayre bi Yisrael shelo chatu. It started talking about Jewish people who never sinned, or who we might say rarely sin, because it's impossible to never sin, but they rarely sinned, and that's how the pasuk started, and that's what we assume makes the most sense. People like that, we can understand, will be called by the name of Yaakov and will be connected to Hashem. That's obvious to us. V'heim chelik Hashem. And that's the portion of Hashem. V'achar kach gerei hatzedek. After that, the pasuk said, we're going to talk about righteous converts. Shema shechotu kodem sheniskairu. Any sins they did before they converted, anusim heim. They were considered forced to do those things. They didn't know anything about Torah and mitzvos. They didn't know anything about the proper way to act and serve Hashem. So that's one step above the righteous Jews. Righteous Jews, we understand their connection to Hashem. Then we're learning that Gerei Tzedek, people who convert and are righteous people. That's more of a chiddush to us, but we understand it because they're not responsible at all for their previous actions, and now they're living their lives as righteous Jews. V'achar kach balei tshuva, and after that category comes the category of balei tshuva, who, since they were always Jewish, are responsible for their actions from before they did teshuva. V'achar kach, and then the last category, chasidei umos ha'olam. This is the biggest chiddush, the biggest surprise of the pasuk. Non-Jews who never converted. They did not convert. They were non-Jewish before and they're non-Jewish now. And nonetheless, because they are chasidei umos ha'olam, because they are truly righteous individuals, they too can be called by the name Yisrael. They can be referred to as people who are embracing the spiritual values that the Jewish people personify. The Zera Shimshon has taken us through a pasuk from Yeshaya, connected it to the essence of Yaakov Avinu in terms of his name Yaakov and physicality, and Yisrael in terms of spirituality. And he's used many different sources, starting with the Yalkut Shimoni, but many other midrashim and sources in Gemara, to explain the psukim and the references in a much deeper way than we would have seen on our own. Yasher koch to everyone who joined us in learning Zera Shimshon today, and we look forward to learning Zera Shimshon again on next week's parsha.